Shalom, everybody. This is Dave from Universal Truth of Mankind. I am your host, and this is Meditation 201. Please subscribe to both platforms, Rumble and YouTube, to my channel, Universal Truth of Mankind. All the videos are on both, but if one platform goes down, you always have the other. Also, like and share these videos. They're all free. I'm not asking for any money, and you can learn a lot from these videos. Now, I've been talking about self for all 22 videos so far, or 21 plus this one, which is the 22nd video. Who is self? It's not the me, myself, and I, the egotistical self, but the true self, who I really am. Now, we are consistent. We exist at different levels. We exist at a soul level, an upper soul level. We exist at a body level, and we exist at a mind level. So we got a soul, mind, body arrangement that takes place. And that is definitely part of these two trees that you're seeing before you, these two illustrations. Listen to the previous videos, go down to the playlist, and definitely watch all the videos because they add on each other from video 1 all the way forward to this 22nd video. And in them, I will explain the art to you, why it's in the one tree and not the other. So let's move on. Now we started in Genesis 1:1. I'm not going to belabor this too much. You can go to previous videos. I'm just trying to make sure this video is a little bit of a standalone if someone decides not to go to the previous video so they can get a little more understanding of it. What we did is we looked at the very first verse of Genesis and let Genesis tell us the structure, the nature of spirituality all the way down to physicality. Now, granted, physicality is not in this verse. However, it gives us insight to a structure that the Creator created so that we can become all we're supposed to become. So we can take the thought of creation, the design of creation, and the fabricator of creation ourselves so that we can transform the world. In Judaism, we're taught that if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. The world doesn't change, so you change yourself. We have too many politicians. We have too many do-gooders. I will call them do-gooders out there. And I'm not saying that they are not trying to make a difference, but they fail to realize they have to start with themselves first before they even think about changing others. And so they end up making a mess of things. So what do we get out of this verse? These are sephirots we get out of the verse. We got Keter, we got Chachma, Binah. You should recognize those already. Zeir Anpin and Malkut. Now, Zeir Anpin splits into 6 separate sephirots. Zeir Anpin is representing all those 6. And you'll see that very shortly. So we end up with this visual. Think of this as flowing downwards. Think of this as steps. Step 1, thought of creation. Creator has a thought. Like we do, we have a thought to create something. And then what we do after we have a thought, we start designing it. Now we have to design it before we make it. Now some people think of something and they start creating. Well, that's because they've already did the design. So this is emulating us too. We're creating in the image of, we're creating the image of here too. We have a thought and then we design it. What do we do after that? Well, we create the tools or create the technology to help us create the tools to bring that thought, that design into reality, into something we can use, something we can benefit from. Is that not like us? So we really do see an image of the creator within us right there. And then we go to Zeir Anpin. Now, Zeir Anpin, as I've stated in the past, are 6 sephirots. These are our intelligent energies that we're created in the image of. And this is where we are messed up. These are the six sephirots that have to be brought into balance, and it takes time. And this is what we end up with. Now you can see Keter Hakma Bana on the left there. I just skewed them around a little bit just to help you see how if we start rearranging, they start looking like the tree on the right. Zeranpin are the six in the middle. Those are six intelligent energies that we have within ourselves. These also produce emotions. So this is our mind that we're talking about. This is the metaphysical part of our being that needs to be transformed. And this is the 6 days of creation that we are created in the image of. Already stated that in previous videos. And then you can see how it moves over to the right. And then Malkut, which is the world we live in. So we had to transform the Zer Anpin within ourselves. We had to transform these six sephirots before we can even think about transforming the world. And that's the amazing part. If we can fix ourselves individually, we fix the world one little piece at a time. That means the individual has a massive amount of power. And then as collectively we do this, we transform the world. So individually, we have power and love our neighbor as ourselves, becoming one, becoming like each other in terms of having this balance within us and this proper alignment and structure, we become an effective part of change within the world. And like last time, I took this picture and or illustration and I associated God's names to it so we can better understand the names of God when we see them in Scripture. I'm talking about in the Hebrew, not the English. Unfortunately, several names of God appear as God or Lord. There's two names that can appear as Lord. Sometimes it's a capital L and lower O-R-D, and sometimes it's capital L-O-R-D. And in a sense, they're pointing to the same thing, in a sense. I'll get to that in a future video. And this is what we ended up with. You see here, Keter is associated Ehya. Ehya was Moses was at the burning bush, and Ehya was speaking to Moses about his mission. So the thought of creation was speaking to him to make sure that Moses understood what he needed to do. Now, not to confuse the picture too much, but I do have to add something in. If you pay close attention to this passage and you read it, you will find that Yud He Vav He Elohim, that's the one near Zeranpin, was actually speaking. So it was Ethia Asher Ethia, mean I'll be that I'll be, or in this case Ethia I'll be, was speaking through Yud He Vav He Elohim. And this is very common. You see this in the 10 words, errantly called the 10 Commandments. And one day I will explain why Zer Anpin there is doing the speaking. Now let's go back up again. Is the designer. I'm sorry, is the thought of creation. Yud He Vav He is the designer of creation. Now the Yud He Vav He did have another task, and I'll be getting that in a future video. Yud He Vav He is more or less the designer of the soul, which we get into chapter 2. And then we have Elohim, which is actually the creator, creating creation. And I speak to that in previous videos as well. That's why it's important to go back to those videos. I try to teach you in chunks. Now, Zeranpin, Yud He Vav He Elohim. Now, we know chapter 1 has Elohim. Where does Yud He Vav He appear? Well, in English, it's translated typically as Lord God, the Lord your God. That appears in chapter 2. So in chapter 1, Elohim is the creator. Chapter 2 is where Yud He Vav He is doing the final touches on creation. Then Malkut, which is Adonai. You may be saying, well, Adonai is God's name. And in a past video, I mentioned that's the world we change. Exactly. we transform this world to Adonai's standards. I guess the best way to put it. Eventually, I'm going to be talking about Jacob's ladder, where we see, remember I told you, these are 5 steps, and there's 5 steps within 5 steps, and within those 5 steps, so at 3 levels, each one has 5 steps, 5 steps, 5 steps. And what happens? That's 125 steps. Ashlag talks about those 125 steps, and so they're visualized here. So we did this. I know I'm repeating that, but now we're going to go one step further. I added a little more information in this time. So I keep adding to what's being shown here. So let's go to the soul level. Remember I told you, Yud Hey Vav Hey designed the soul. And Zer Anpin is mentioned in chapter 2 of Genesis, and that's where the majority of the souls are actually mentioned in chapter 2. Hey, remember where it says, breathe the breath of life? Well, if you read that in the Hebrew, there's 3 souls being mentioned there. 3 of the 5 souls. Here we go. We got Yikada. Yikada is like, that's at such a heavy, such a high level that you are practically nullified. This is our umbilical cord to the Creator. So that's how Ethia is our sustainer. The thought of creation is our sustenance. That gives us the light, which I've spoken to before. Now, Yud Hey Vav Hey is associated to Kaya. Now, you may say Kaya, that sounds familiar. What is Kaya? Because the name of woman was changed to Kava, which means life. So Kaya is life. Do you ever hear of L'chaim to life? Well, L'chaim means to lives, not life, to lives. So what is Kaya? Well, the best way to describe this to you, simplest terms, it's like a universal soul. It's where we all exist together. In other words, our souls are all connected. But not only are they all connected at that level, but we were all created together. You could say, in a sense, I don't know if you've ever seen jigsaw puzzles made, but what they do is they take a picture or a painting or something like that, and they put it on cardboard. And then they create a jig cutter that will fit over that picture and press down with sharp blades and cut out the pieces. Sort of like the shattering of the sparks, the creation of the sparks, which you hear about in Kabbalah. But at this level, we're not separated at this point. So at a lower level creation, yeah, these sparks are broken. These are broken into sparks. So the Creator created his design, Yud Hey Vav Hey, made a design. He cut it into pieces and gave us all a specific mission that when we put all the pieces together, we create a whole. We're a holistic picture. We all have an intricate part of what? Transforming Malkut. So at this level, we're still in a perfect form. Now, Kava was called, or the woman was called Kava in chapter 3, because she did a good thing. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't understand that. Maybe one day I'll talk more on that in the, but her name was changed to Kava, life. So she's bringing this life, this universal soul, except in pieces, down to Malkut. So you could say, yes, man has fallen, so to speak. Yes, man has sinned, so to speak. But the world was full of imperfections. So how do you transform the world? From the inside out. Think of Malkut as being in chaos. How do you transform chaos in order? You have to bring order down to chaos. Well, how do you do that? One piece at a time. You get the understanding now? What's happening here? Then you had the neshama. That's Elohim. But like I said in chapter 1, verse 1 of Genesis, the Aleph Tav appears after Elohim. So there's an upper and lower part of Elohim. The upper part we can't comprehend. We're not really, we can understand it at a very simplistic level, but no details. But below it, we have an understanding. The waters. Remember I said that? And the earth. What is that? That's Zeranpin, and that's Malkut. This heavens. 6 heavens. 7th heaven would be Malkut, but but the 6 heavens, the waters, is Zeranpin. Those 6 sephirots, as I mentioned earlier. Now, back to Elohim. So there's upper and lower, but we can understand the lower parts of it. Like we can't see the dark side of the moon. You and I, we don't know what's there. They say they took photographs and they show us, oh, this is what's here, that's there. But the reality is we weren't there. So let's just be practical here. We don't know what's on the other side of the moon. But we do know what's on this side of the moon. You can view that as neshama. You can also view this as our own minds. The brain doesn't understand itself. The mind doesn't understand itself. But it can think. So neshama has 2 levels to it. It's got an upper and lower level, just like Elohim. It's the lower level that we're interested in. The upper level is who we really are. It's our eternal self, so it's our perfected self. And the lower part is the reflection. It's here to feed us little by little to transform us. And as we're transformed, we transform Malkut, chaos, into an order. We bring the light down. Like I said, listen to previous videos, and this is going to go. You're probably going to go, oh, now I see what he's saying. Ave Elohim is a balance. It's a balance of Chachma and Binah. You may be saying, why is there a balance? Well, because there's both positive and negative energies at our level. And we sometimes say, oh, we had to have only positive energy. Well, not exactly. You also need negative energy. Remember, God created good. Good is not good when we're separated into positive and negative. Good is when positive and negative come together. You may not realize that. It's because we perceive good and positive and negative energies incorrectly. Positive energy, negative energy just exists. It's not good or bad, either one. It doesn't have, it's neither. We're the ones who put the concept of good and bad into this picture. That's why we say, oh, to the right is right and left is wrong. We use that concept of thinking, but that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have a balance between the two. It's also a balance of what's above to what's below. In other words, we are to raise up Malkut. We are to raise up our world to a higher level. And we are to bring down the upper world down to the low level. And that way, the 2 levels meet. So we have a horizontal meeting and we have a vertical meeting. The positive, negative, horizontal meeting, balance. And then we have the upper and lower balance. The upper spiritual to the lower realm of action, physicality, balance. So we had to bring both into balance. Now, what soul is that? It's Ruach. Ruach means spirit. Ruach can also be, like I said, emotions. That's where your emotions are. You can have a good emotion, or you can have a negative emotion. We can have anger. We can have peace. Remember, it's what it said in Psalms, green pastures. Well, the color of Zeranpin is green. Still waters. Remember what it said, the heavens, Zeranpin. All the sephirotes, the 6, are in balance. Therefore, the waters are still. When they're not, Ruach gets very emotional, very emotional. As you notice, I quickly changed the last one. I edited it, and here we go. Do you remember in the Torah where we are told there is life in the blood? There is the soul in the blood. That soul is nephesh. This nephesh soul is what animates the body, makes us move, makes us become, or I should say, activates us in the realm of action, which is Malkut. In another video, I'll explain more on that. So you see, there's a picture being done. You can see there's these steps. You got the attribute of the Sephirot. You got the name of the Sephirot. The name is an attribute. The soul is an attribute. In this case, let's take Kaya. Kaya is an attribute of Chakma. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is an attribute of Chakma, which is wisdom. So let me touch on one more thing. What is light? Like I said, the source is thought of creation, Ehya, Keter, Yikada. The design is also a source, designer, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Chakma, Kaya. And then a fabrication or fabricator, which is Binah, Elohim, Neshama. So these three are in cooperation together. They are actually one and the same to transform us so that eventually Malkut, the world of action, the realm of action, which is the Nefesh, which is Adonai, which is Malkut, will be formed and will look like eventually the thought of creation, the design of creation, the fabrication of it. When you go into combat, you try to infiltrate a line. Very rarely, unless you really know you can, do you take all your troops and rush a line. That's usually suicide. So what you have to do is figure out a way to infiltrate your enemy. Find weak points and take advantage of that, weak points in the armor, and sneak in. And then slowly take their order and make chaos out of it. And then you can defeat them and win the battle. Well, it's not much different here. Us being broken to little pieces is an infiltration of chaos. The world, we have love here. Take it. See, we have love here. What's the opposite of love? Hate. The world hates. God loves. Therefore, we are to love, not to hate. What is wisdom? What's the opposite of wisdom, I should say? You have ignorance. The world's ignorant. What's the opposite of revelation? Well, nothing. Confusion. Sanity. Insanity. Is this world not insane? I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that one. Righteousness. Righteousness, like I said, is the balance of those six intelligent energies, what we call Zeranpin, what we call Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim, and what we call Ruach. It's like water. It's all fluid. But when that's in balance, we have righteousness. And what do we have without righteousness? Well, I guess you could say bad, evil, and all that. Positive energy, negative energy. Healing. What's the opposite of healing? Disease. We have all of these here in this world right now, but we also have all of these in this world. So what we're trying to do is transform all of these into these, but with a balance. Let me explain what I mean. Let's take love, for example. If you love somebody a lot, you may let them get away with anything they do. So can be a bad side to love. You can love your child so much that you never let that child grow up like a mama's boy. You can love so much that you will stalk a person or create maybe even a fatal attraction situation. You see what happens? Even these can be turned into a negatives. Remember what I said, we're pieces of a puzzle. So we have to maintain our unique identity, our unique what? Our unique purpose and our mission. That's why God, or that's why in the Amida, we say the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, because God had to be unique to each one of those people because they had a unique experience, unique purpose. They were in a unique culture, environment, so on and so forth. So they had to be, those borders had to be preserved to preserve the individual. You can love the individual, but preserve the individuality. In other words, you're creating, rather than a dependent situation versus an independent situation, you bring the two together and you create an interdependent situation. And that's where we're after, interdependence. I'm going to stop here. A little lengthy, but I really hope you listen to what I've just said. And I really hope you grasp this. This picture is becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. These are starting to make more and more sense. And as we learn this more and more, this should be exciting, everybody, understanding more the relationship that the Creator has with us. Some of us have to learn from the bottom up. That's why I'm doing these videos. Some of us already, I'm not necessarily including myself, we already understand and we're working down. 99.9% of us are working up. And the remainder are working down. But the reality is we have to work from the bottom up and the top down. The bottom up by watching videos such as this and reading and so on and so forth, listen to lectures, and the bottom down to create a balance here. Green pastures and still waters. Take care, everybody. Shalom, shalom.